You didn't see that coming?
Howdy peeps! Before we start, I just want to say thank you. The past week has been one of the most stressful and exhausting weeks of my life, with my college being a nightmare, along with personal things, not to mention getting episode 5 of my series, that you should definitely watch, link in the description, completed and released. And in that time, also releasing music that I and my good friend Ryan created. So yeah, last week was probably one of the most stressful weeks of my life, and to still see the support and feedback come through despite this has made it all pretty much worth it for me. So yeah, thank you all very much. Go watch Puzzle Pieces if you love indie animation. And let's get on to the video. Hazbin Hotel, after so many years, has now finally been given an entire season consisting of 8 episodes. Now, you might be wondering, didn't you talk about the series only like 2 to 3 weeks ago? How is it already over? Well, strangely, the release schedule was a bit of a mess, to be honest. With the first 4 episodes releasing at once, and then every Friday there'd be 2 episodes releasing, which was only 2 Fridays. So in total, it's only had around 3 weeks of airtime, a shockingly low statistic in comparison to other shows on Prime, like Invincible that releases 1 episode weekly. So yeah, kind of strange, but despite that, I managed to finally watch all the episodes. So, has my points from my first video changed at all? Well, kinda. First, let me start off by saying, this show is an absolute accomplishment that deserves respect. Whether you like it or not, you have to respect the fact that a girl who went from creating DeviantArt to now having their own dreams realised by sticking to their guns and giving it all they got, is the definition of a success story, and it's a good one at that. So first off, hats off to the team of Hazbin Hotel, because this was a beautiful thing to see realised. So yeah, this show is an incredible feat to even exist, but the question I'm left with is, was it worth the long wait it took to get here? I'm gonna say kinda. Yes, I know, but just hear me out on this. This show has been in production hell for nearly half a decade, so it was never going to live up to expectations no matter how good the episodes were. But that doesn't mean it doesn't come close. All the episodes are structured pretty much identically, with there being the main plot set up in the beginning, some crazy shenanigans unfold that result in 1 or 2 songs that inevitably lead to the ending, with each episode being around 25 minutes in length. Now, at first you may think that's pretty standard for a show. However, this leads into one of my major issues with this show, and that being, the show's got a humongous pacing problem. And funny enough, it's the exact opposite problem that Hell of a Boss had. Whereas Hell of a Boss spent too much time on not important things, Hazbin Hotel focuses too little time on the important things. They cram so much in these episodes that it should have been fleshed out more. These stories feel like they would have needed 40 to 50 minutes to properly flesh out and deliver on, but due to the short runtime to each episode, it just ends up making the important plot points either feel rushed or not important at all. Take Angel Dust as an example. He starts to get a bit of a character development in episode 4, but we don't see any further development up until episode 6, where apparently a few months have gone by since those 2 episodes. Now this itself isn't an issue, but it's the fact that they act like Angel has gone through tons of development and only now is starting to improve, just feels like a betrayal to the audience, as all this growth happened completely off screen. When it was on screen, it was only the beginning of his development, so you can see why a casual viewer might feel a bit ripped off, and that's only one character here. Plenty of other characters barely get development this season, such as Charlie. She's rarely ever allowed to have any time to herself, allow us to properly get into her character without needing to other characters to clog up that process. And hell, sometimes development end up holding episodes back. Like with episode 6, Vaki is revealed to be an exorcist. But that has zero effect and impact on the episode's plot. It just feels like something they had to get out of the way, no matter how it would affect the episode, because they just didn't have the time to flesh it out. And the strict time damages this reveal, as neither this or the next episode really take time to commit to it. You'd think a twist as big as this would have gotten characters into a huge conflict. Hell, you could have done a whole episode worth of conflict based off this idea. But they do nothing with it, so it just ends up feeling less important than it really should be. It feels like the writers wanted to cram as much as they could into the show, because they don't know if they'll get a second season or not. So instead of having a natural progression, it just ends up coming across as overwhelming and confusing. It's like if shows like Adventure Time or Steven Universe just threw in 50% of their lore within the first season alone. And with a show as big as Hazbin, you need to elaborate and explain properly so nobody's left confused or take the wrong idea from these stories. So yeah, Hazbin Hotel's got a lot of issues, just like Hell of a Boss. However, the difference I feel here, and the reason I prefer Hazbin Hotel to Hell of a Boss, is due to the fact Hazbin has a much better understanding of making genuinely likable characters. The characters here, although unfortunately don't get enough development as they should, are still highlights from the show, with funny enough the best character being the ones that require little development, like Alistair, Husk, or Serpentius and Vox. Are all characters who require very little development in terms of character building, because they're not the main characters and thus essentially can rely solely on their performances and personalities to make them good here. Now development wouldn't hurt this, but I'm just saying the lack of development doesn't hurt them either. Like Alistair, his whole thing is that he's a mystery, and that alongside his both funny and intimidating character, it makes him fun to theorize about. He stays in your mind much longer than any other character does. Him and the other characters I mentioned steal the screen whenever they're seen, and just absolutely become highlights to each episode. They don't need frustrating motivations, alliances, or even confusing pasts. They just need to have good screen presence and serve a unique purpose to the cast and story, while being performed absolutely amazingly. Also, one thing that I think we all enjoyed was the music. This show had quite a few songs, and I'd say almost all of them were great. They really were visually impressive, and each sounded unique from one another, as they played with the setting, the characters, the tones, and the instruments. A good sign of a fantastic musical. My favourite songs ended up being Loser Baby, Stayed Gone, Hell's Greatest Dad, and Out for Love. As I feel they did what a good song should. They moved the story forward, they expanded on the characters, and it fleshes the world out. Also, can I just say how much I love the fact that Serpentius was the one to be redeemed first. It was perfect for his character, starting off as just a villain of the week, who would do anything to be respected, to end up being the one who overcomes his insecurities, makes the ultimate sacrifice, and it perfectly ties into his character. Just with one nice little bow. I love it. Although, I wish he died a little more gracefully, you know, actually getting a shot off his laser, not just instantly evaporated for the sake of a dark joke. But it's still good nonetheless. So, in conclusion, was Hazbin Hotel worth the wait? Sort of. This show has a lot of issues, pretty major ones at that. However, there is a lot of potential here, so if I were to make changes for a season 2, I'd do a few things. First would be fix the pacing. Slow down a bit. Either write stories that are better suited for the 25-minute format, or boost the amount of time an episode can have. Secondly, I would sort the focus out. Have more episodes where it's just about one or two characters, so we can actually get to know them well. The closest thing I can think of that's similar to this, what I'm referring to, is Transformers Prime. That took several episodes dedicated to only one or two characters that were able to have fun with them also, while also expanding on their characters and making them just much more enjoyable. And lastly, I would improve the episode release schedule, as if the show wanted to stay in the public eye, it's gonna need more than just 3 weeks on air to stay in people's mind and keep them interested. So, those were my thoughts on the first Hazbin Hotel season. Do you agree with my picks, or do you have a completely different experience altogether? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you all next time.